I'm going to call a third and final time for nominations for the position of chair. As no other nominations have been received, Director Lennox is awarded position of chair by acclamation, and I will hand over chairman of the meeting.
Okay,
to you.
be as quick as possible here.
And we'll do
The sign.
It's right there. Oh, yeah.
Okay, make sure I got power.
Your chair sign is cool.
Okay,
I think
Huge.
very important.
Director McCormick, I think is participating in her videos, not on there now.
Director McCormick, are you gonna keep your video off or are we gonna?
I think she might have gone for a bathroom.
Okay, well, we'll wait for a couple minutes. No?
And did we lose Andrew?
Andrew's not
On the planning committee.
Planning committee.
Great. Well, neither.
Appreciate your attendance.
Just a couple. Okay, thanks for time.
The mining.
There's a couple of Texada related things here, so I don't want to get going. Just want to give Director McCormick one more minute. Sorry, everyone.
Let's ram a bunch of things through on Texada.
I'm just going
It's still on.
the audio that's running.
Right, yeah, thanks.
The music's still on.
I think we can go. We have quorum.
We do have quorum and okay, well, hopefully Director McCormick will be with us as soon as possible. We are down to point number 3 on our agenda, which is if we could have somebody move the agenda, that'd be great. Director Gisborne, seconder. Director Brander, thank you. Any discussion on the agenda? Seeing none, all those in favor? Good. McCormick. Passed. Next point is adoption of the minutes of our last meeting, December 4th, 2024. So moved. Any errors or omissions or anything? You should ask that. Thank you, Director Gisborne, and seconder, Director Brander. All those in favor of the minutes? Any opposed? I do it properly, so none opposed, that's carried. Delegations, do we have a delegation? No?
We don't have any.
Anybody in the crowd there? Just give me a chance in case you wanted to. Okay, thank you. No unfinished business, no correspondence, which is unusual. Therefore, no business, and then reports. So our first report, and I do hold, oh, there's Director McCormick. Good timing, Director McCormick. So we do have a report 9.1 was a notice of work for a mining permit in District Lot 4 in Electoral Area D. There are 3 points of consideration there. Do we want to have a discussion or just move the motion? Director McCormick?
I'll move the recommendation.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Director Brander, thank you. Discussion? Pretty straightforward. Director McCormick, go ahead.
It is fairly close to the Emily Lake expansion project, which we've applied for. But it isn't actually in that area, so I'm okay with it. It's okay.
Thanks. Maybe I'll just make a quick comment. I think the report speaks for itself, very clear. You've considered all the appropriate considerations and policy. There's no known development within that area at the time, so that kind of made it a little bit easier. And I think the recommendations are reasonable. So any other comments, Director Elliott?
That's a curiosity question, actually. My question is, we've made aware that we would like to have rehabilitation be ongoing as opposed to at the end of the project. There's what mechanisms are used by the ministry to try and make that happen?
Good question. Maybe I can ask our planning staff, Ms. Rodden. I had the same type of question about, and I think it's an ongoing commitment. Maybe you could explain that to us. Or Ms. Roberts, whoever. Don't fight over it.
Just like we
Yeah,
can ask,
yeah.
but if there's no way to enforce it, what would be the?
Ms. Rodden.
Yeah, through the chair, the language in the condition comes from the policy in the Texada Island Official Community Plan.
Okay.
These are recommendations to the ministry. They make their decisions according to their approvals process, and at the end of the day, it's their decision. I mean, rehabilitation is necessary, but at what point in the process, I couldn't say. Yeah. But this is a standard that we always ask for on Texada.
Do we ever get it?
Through the chair.
Sorry.
That's a good question. I think this is a typical requirement on Texada that's been met in the past.
Yeah. Through the chair, we do not monitor
Okay.
the exploration, or there's no ongoing monitoring from us, so I do not know.
Okay, thanks. I saw Director McCormick go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. It's my understanding that when they drill the hole, they fill it up again and grass over it before going on to the next hole. But although we don't have a formal monitoring process, we do have a group on Texada, very active hikers who are, regularly through that area. So if it isn't being reclaimed as they go, I'll find out about it.
We'll know about it, eh?
We'll know about it for sure.
So it's the Sandy McCormick monitoring.
Well,
It's known as a social contract.
thank you, Director McCormick. And I think the bullet point 3 about the same thing about requiring to limit the number of trees and sort of keep that the intent of the OCP and the flavor is probably the same monitoring effort, huh?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you
Great.
so much for indulging
Thank
me,
you.
Chair.
Okay, seeing no further hands, I'll put it to a vote. All those in favor? Is unanimous, and it's carried. Thank you. All right, next one is 9.2. It's a referral for a 2-lot conventional subdivision, the corner of Gillies Bay Road and Airport Road, again on Texada in Area D. So we have a recommendation before us. Dr. McCormick.
I'll move the recommendation.
Thank you. And Director Brander, thank you. Discussion. Director McCormick.
Yeah, thank you. This is to facilitate the seniors housing project that this board has heard considerable discourse about previously. So it's the site that has received conditional approval from the Agricultural Land Commission to be removed from the ALR. And so this would subdivide off from the greater section that's owned by Selkirk Mountain. It would create a new separate independent lot for the seniors housing project. So I think it's a good subdivision and it should be approved.
Thank you. And I agree. I just noted on page 8 of 31, that is the response from the Agricultural Land Commission. And really, they've just said there's a few more things to meet their criteria, right? And I think that we're able to, the society and our staff have been able to work through that. That's my assumption, Director McCormick.
Yeah, thank you. A quick follow-up question, if I may, to Ms. Rodden, and that is, when do you expect that the conditional approval will be then revised to either unconditional or whatever? Because it's been about 60 days, as I recall, from the original approval. It's been more than that. So I'm just wondering, do you have any idea?
Rodden.
Chair, yes, the 60-day period has closed now, so the approval is set. It's just, but they do have their conditions. They need to get the surveyed subdivision plan and title registered and everything. But that 60-day window is finished, and we made it through without any additional conditions.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, great. Any other questions? Okay, seeing none, we'll put it to a vote. All those in favor? Is carried as well unanimously. Thank you. 9.3, another one, it's Area D month here, so we got hangar developments. There's a recommendation to really let the advisory committee know that there's some potential there, 610 square meters of hangar expansion that is permitted. And we have basically recommendations to send them a letter. Do we have a mover for that? Director McCormick, are you moving that?
Yes.
Great, and I saw Director Brander's hands. Discussion. Director McCormick.
Thank you. The advisory committee has reported previously that there is quite a waiting list to get hangar space at the airport. And so this is welcome information that I'm not sure how many square meters a hangar occupies. That would allow how many, I'm not sure how many more hangars that would allow, but at least it's a good starting point to move forward with looking at those sites. When those sites are developed, it will be additional revenue for the regional district. So there is a benefit to us to seeing this go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Director McCormick. I have the same question. Maybe Ms. Ron or Mr. Devereaux understands, what is the average hangar commitment sort of thing within 600, like how many does that give us potential for? Ms. Ron?
Yeah, through the chair, I wish I had a visual in the report, an additional appendix, because Caleb did prepare a map of the existing hangars and the size of each. So like on average, they're just over 100. So 600
Say 6
square meters would allow for, you know, 5 more.
Okay. And a subsequent question, is there a typical cost, like an average sort of income from a 600 square foot, like maybe we don't, that's from Ms. Green and somebody.
I'll defer to Patrick Devereaux on
Mr. Devereaux, I know it's last minute question there, but what's our average income from a normal hangar? You know that off by hand?
Through the chair, if I may, I do not know the average off the top of my head. It's based on the square footage. The square footage of the hangars varies from about 360 square meters to about 100 square meters, and it's based on their footprint. I hesitant to guess, Chair, but I can get that information to you.
Yeah, thanks. Just her comment made me ask the question, so. I do note there's a couple of ALR considerations here too. I think the report speaks to it and how we negotiate with that. So any other questions on this application? No? All right. 9.3, we'll put it to a vote to.
Sorry, I thought you were moving on. I was just gonna say.
No, no, I think, so we have a mover and a seconder, right?
Yep.
So we can put it to a vote. So all those in favor? Good, that's unanimous and carried. Thank you. Moving along, 9.4. This one's a notice of work for Mines Act permit, but it's not on Texada. This is so a district block 6173 electoral area B. And there are several points here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 points in the recommendations. So do we want to have a discussion, or do somebody want to move this, Director?
I'd like to ask a couple of questions.
Okay, go ahead.
Because I do recall a similar application for this site in 2019. It's been a long time. My mind is a little fuzzy. So my first question is it's on page 10 of 113, and it's the map, which has all the colors. There's a vegetated buffer area. There's an orange area of 76 meters, but then there's also the future phases of mining area. Memory serves, I believe there was a motion about extending the vegetated buffer area. If this motion passes as is in the agenda, would that allow the mining operation to essentially go right to the edge, because the vegetated buffer area doesn't exist in the northern section? And I'll wait for our staff to.
Yeah, so maybe I'll ask Ms.
113.
Yeah, Ms. Rodden or Ms. Roberts to comment on the existing vegetative buffer area and whether that is proposed to be extended.
through the chair, the existing vegetative buffer, that 100 meters, is existing, and it dates back to Actually, the original application in 2009, it was picked up again in 2011
Mhm.
and in 2019. In the background section of the report,
Mhm.
the resolutions are there, so most of the conditions pick up on those items. But a vegetative buffer along the northern boundary, was that the question?
No, extending all the way to the northern boundary, because I believe that was something that was discussed in 2019 about extending that buffer all the way to the
Maybe I can clarify on page 10 of 113, it does show north, south, east and west. And I think Director Gisborne is asking the green section there, if that would be extended north to meet the bound, like the complete property there.
yeah, and I'll like, oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I understand now. If that is a desire of the committee, then I think the condition would need to be, that first condition, you might want to add on to that some language. So the 100-meter tree buffer along the eastern boundary may be maintained and extended
To meet the property line.
northern property boundary. Is that what you're
So
thinking?
maybe, thank you for that. Maybe we'll consider that just as a point of reference for folks. Page 9 of 113 has a bit better of a display of the whole property and then the residential areas to the east. And so I think part of the consideration is that is in Director Gisborne's mind is should we extend it all the way to protect those folks on the east side?
That is correct. And I can, well, I guess if I put forward the motion, that I'll speak to it.
So we'll stick with questions and we'll wait for any amendments or motions. Any other questions on the application? I'm just looking for Director McCormick, making sure, no? Okay. As I said, there's quite, this is an existing operation and there's quite a few points to consider around, obviously, wastewater, environment, residential areas and that. So I'm prepared to accept, an amendment if you think it's Director Gisborne.
I would move the motion with the addition under the first bulletin
Mhm.
where it says the 100-meter treed buffer along the eastern boundary be maintained
Mhm.
and be extended to meet the northern property boundary. That seconded, I'll speak to it.
I will second that for discussion.
Okay. This came up in 2019, but I remember go back in, what was it, 2009 when this was originally proposed, and I wasn't even the director, and all the community outcry from the neighboring properties about the risk of dusk and noise and all those other kind of things. Now, I also wanted to give a big thanks to Select Sand and Gravel because the operations that have been going on there with that treed buffer, the complaints from the folks in that area has been very minimal, and a lot of them that I spoke to, they're like, they're appreciative of the work that's being done by Select Sand and Gravel. But I do remember talking to some folks back in 2019, and there was that kind of concern that, hey, if the mining operation continues on that lease going further north, is that then going to cause them to essentially get past that treed buffer and then start moving towards, where the residences are at the back? And that then might cause a bit of a headache for the folks that are like, well, the folks that are further closer to the highway, they're protected, but those at the back are not so much. I know it's not a whole bunch of properties back there. It's not like an apartment building or anything like that, but I think fair is fair. And I do also see that there has already been kind of like some disturbed stuff on the orange portion on page 10 that has kind of gone into that 100-meter area that is not currently designated. So if it does get extended, I'm sure it'll kind of have like a little bit of a carve out because it's ultimately at the discretion of the Ministry of Mines. So we can put this in as like our conditional requirement, and our planners can, please correct me if I'm wrong, it is still up to the Ministry of Mines to, whether it's a 100-meter or 90-meter, or it's ultimately up to them. Does that make sense?
Yeah, through the chair, I think, Ms. Rodden, is that the correct interpretation?
Yes, through the chair, that's correct.
Thank you. Maybe I'll just speak to this amendment. I have a question actually on that same map on page 10. First of all, it looks like the topography increases in steepness. That's not the right way to put it, but on that section of land that we're talking about. And I know that in the report, it's pretty much their intent is to leverage the lower areas and be working in those areas. So that supports this buffer. I guess the one question I have is, by increasing this buffer area, does that negatively affect their business plan? And I can't answer that, but I know you've been working with the proponents. Has there been any comments on that area at all?
Well, through the chair, the purple area is future phases. Coincidentally, both myself and Sharice Robert recreate on the trails in that area. And I think they've already logged what's in the purple.
Okay.
But I can't verify that on the ground, but they have realigned the trail and it goes right along the cut block boundary.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, if the condition was as worded, there'd have to be some replanting in that area, but.
Because I'm sorry, follow up to your comment that it's not vegetated buffer anymore, I don't think. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Director Gisborne, go ahead.
Yeah, no, that's really good information. I haven't gone up there in a number of years. I think some of the concern that I recall from many years ago was more of like kind of like the setback of like how close the operations are getting. So even if the area like wasn't replanted and a bunch of big trees, forced to grow overnight, which I think is ridiculous, I think it's more of like, hey, if the vegetation can just be allowed to grow, even if it's kind of shrubbish, as long as, I think the concern is the operation kind of approaching that boundary is, I think, where we'll start to hear a lot of concerns from the neighborhood. If I don't think we need to actually go in and start replanting a bunch of things, because that just sounds like a lot of money and work that's not necessary. It's more of, I think the concern is, will there be gravel and material extraction approaching that property boundary, and therefore if the buffer area gets extended, I think that would then alleviate those concerns in the community. And of course, it's ultimately up to the mind.
Thank you. I have one kind of follow-up question to what we've been talking about. If we were to pass this and require that, and then the ministry agrees with it and makes that the requirement, is there a mechanism to remove that buffered area in the future if there was a request from the owners? I'm not sure about that, or if it's ever happened. See where I'm going? Like if in the future they've kind of extracted what they need and they feel they need to benefit from the rest of their property, is there a mechanism for to at least apply for that?
Yes, through the chair, I believe they would just apply for another
Amendment or-
permit.
Okay.
And then it would be addressed at that point.
Just making sure they have at least a mechanism because the future is the future. Thank you. Any other questions, comments? Okay, we'll move do we have a mover and seconder?
Yes, thank you,
Thank you. Okay,
Chair.
great. Thanks. Well, thanks for reminding me. We'll move the entire body of recommendations there. So all those in favor? Oh, I'm sorry, the amendment.
It was moved with the amending language.
The main motion was moved differently than what was presented in the agenda. So we only have a main motion to deal with.
Okay,
Really.
okay, fair enough. And thanks for the clarity. We will move the main motion. All those in favor? 1, 2, 3, and Director McCormick 4. That's unanimous. Thank you. Okay. We're now at section 10, no new business I'm aware of. Question period.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. I'm here. Just with regard to the last motion that came up, it was moved with what the statement that Director Gisborne made, the addition to bullet 1. Am I correct in that?
Corporate officer.
Yes, thank you, Chair, and be extended to meet the northern property boundary.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so that was part of the motion that just passed.
Yep.
Thank you, Chair. I appreciate that.
Thank you. And anybody from the public or anyone have any questions, sir?
No question, just a comment, that tree buffer there,
Yes.
on the general manager, was like.
Oh, okay, yes.
I haven't, it hasn't been logged.
Oh, okay, good, good.
Where you're seeing is logged up to that tree buffer. So there's still 100 meters
Nice,
to the
okay.
east. So we haven't logged it, we've left it as a
Excellent.
goodwill towards our neighbors.
Toward man.
So we plan on working with everybody in that trail you walk that's on the border. That trail is gonna be removed in the outer.
Okay.
Of the whole line footprint.
Yeah.
That's all that.
That's probably safer anyways.
Yeah, and the amount we logged there was just a half of that purple area.
Mhm.
So there's still more to go, but we won't do that until we need to cross that bridge.
Thank you. And just to add to that, like, that's what I've been hearing in the community is like Select Sand and Gravel has been working with the community and with the neighbors. And of course, our job is always kind of like, we have to look at the property, not necessarily the operator, because like it could change hands tomorrow. But I did want to say thank you for the work you're doing out there.
Great.
Thanks for being great customers.
Into the future. All right, I don't see any other hands. We'll put it to a vote. All those in favor?
Oh, no.
Oh, we
already
did that?
voted. We are
did that?
going.
I asked for questions, so thank you. Boy, my mind goes too fast. All right, so we are on to our in-camera session. So thank you, Dr. Gisborne. You're always available.
I'll move that the committee move in Kim at the meeting be closed to the public on the grounds that the subject matter to be considered relates to matters covered by the community charter under section 91A. Personal information about an identifiable individual who holds or is being considered for a position as an employee, officer, or agent of the regional district or another position appointed by the regional district, and N, the consideration of other committee meetings should be closed under a provision of this subsection or subsection 2.
Second. That's Director Branter. He's got the easy job. All right, we are going.
All in favor?
Oh, sorry, all in favor. Director McCormick, good, that's unanimous and passed. Thank you, everyone. Bring in camera.
I said officer and employee backwards. But I got one.
I can't remember where we are anymore.
You're gonna get away.
I'm sorry, the hospital district took too long.
Recording in progress.
Thank you, Chair. We're back in session.
And thank you. We are back from our in-camera session. We have no rise and report. Our subject will go to the board. So we are adjourned. Thank you very much.
Good night, everyone.